In this episode, you'll learn why your relationship patterns repeat until you heal the wound, attracting the wrong people. Welcome to Energy Alignment for Entrepreneurs, the podcast helping entrepreneurs be free from anxiety, stress, and tension through balancing emotions and consciousness expansion. Here's 3 things we're going to look at today. Number 1, why the person you are attracted to reflects your unhealed trauma. Number 2, how your father/mother wound determines who you turn on, or who turns you on, rather. And number 3, the pattern break, healing yourself to attract someone whole. Man, this is a big sort of topic for all of us, right? Because inherently, whether you see yourself as having a long-term relationship or kind of being alone, there comes points, seasons, phases in life where you find yourself with someone. You find yourself really caring for someone, maybe even attached to someone. So when we look at the first point, why the person you're attracted to reflects your unhealed trauma, we don't got to take this too seriously. But what comes to me here is we are putting out and we are receiving, right? So it's important to look at what you're attracted to and just to kind of ask the broader question of why, right? Not seeking every single analytical, logical answer. It's important to understand human psychology, but you get to a point where understanding is intuitive and you don't need to analyze because intuition can process millions of bits of information while your logical mind cannot do it in such a manner, right? Hence the value in supercomputers and AI. But back to the point, when we are in this dance, right? Life really does work as a mirror. And the situations, the environments you find yourself in are going to create triggers in you and create pain, in other words. But within pain, there's always this opportunity. There's always this potential purification of thyself. And in simpler terminology, you don't need to worry about healing everything. Life isn't about being healed, being finished. It's not about just always focusing on becoming, what's in the future. It's more about realizing that what your life is showing you right now is meant to be understood. And in your day-by-day living, there will be these reflective moments through your connections with others, your workplace, your intimate relationships, your family, your friends, where you get an opportunity to notice your reactivity. In other words, your trauma. In other words, your shadow. In other words, the absence of stillness and responsiveness. But it's this unhealthy, quick needing to jump. Now, when I use all of that to describe this, it gets simpler when you just realize, man, there's an art form that we all have, potential, and it's through stillness and listening. Not listening to get anything out of this. Not not forcing yourself to try to be a better listener, but rather noticing what happens inside of you, your energy field, the connection, the conversation, when you project, when you do not hold space for what is deeper than the words. Meaning, you'll be in a conversation and people will be talking, they'll be sharing a story, they'll be saying things. And you'll want to jump, you'll want to talk over them, and you'll hold back. And you, rather than listening to talk back to them, you begin to listen in a way where You're just fully giving your attention to them, right? And energy flows where attention goes. So, when your attention is literally just on supporting others, it's not on this insecure living of you needing to put all this effort. The funny part about that is when you support others, they can see the purity of that effort. It's not a willpower, it's a care. It's not a force, it's a power. And I think that when we begin to alter the way that we show up in relationship to others, we also are sharing the work we've done internally. And there's a quote on my wall, right? Your view of the world is a confession of character. The world is not as it is, but as you are. I'll read another one. Uncomfortable emotion is a signal to reflect upon your actions. Let's just go through all of them. Wisdom can ultimately be reduced to the simple process of avoiding that which makes you go weak. Nothing else is really required. And lastly, if we have compassion for each other's blindness, we can learn to forgive ourselves and create a peaceful future. So, to sum the point of this message up, it's really we have this opportunity every single day. We're going to get triggered, we're going to have tension, we're going to have feelings and emotions that are a reflection of our nervous system. The real goal, if there's any goal, is to have a regulated nervous system. Now, thoughts turn into words. Thoughts are built from words, right? So, first of all, you need to be aware of the words you're using, the tone in which you're communicating the words, and to also notice how what you consume affects how you think, and really get clear on the relationship between consumption, thought, words, and actions, and how you treat yourself, and how you end up feeling, and how what you feel gets shared with those around you. And that determines the essence, the quality of your entire life. So, consciousness, what we're talking about here, it's vague because it requires ears to hear. I'm speaking the way that I'm speaking because I'm not talking to people who cannot hear. So, there's this opportunity because the work is internal. I can say everything and everything, but all the work, all the change happens within you. Now, this could be a catalyst, but I do not want you to depend on this as a catalyst. Meaning, you just notice, all right, I'm going to start listening to different sources, different inputs, because this is where I'm at in my life, right? There comes a point where certain things no longer serve you. For example, video games. I haven't touched a video game in a long time. And I like video games. They're not for me, right? So you get clear on what's for you. The relationship between when I do ABC, I feel XYZ. When I consume these things, I feel this way, right? So on and so forth. Now let's hop into point number 2. How your father and mother wound determines who turns you on. Now, this one, I don't want to make it just sensual and sexual. The, what I mean when I say who turns you on, it's more of a bigger picture attraction. I'm talking about love, not pleasure, okay? So, that being said, for me personally, I've never really felt attracted to people who haven't been through the fire themselves. I've always found myself attracted to people or ladies, or even, how do I put it? There's iron sharpens iron relationships with men, right? Where the hardworking men, the men who take risk, who bet on themselves, who have gone through their own doubt, who have voluntarily the harder path, but the rewarding, true path. Those are the men that I find myself around, right? So that's about What was my dad not? Honestly, my dad, he didn't work hard enough and he got distracted. He got distracted with sensual escapism. In other words, drugs, pharmaceuticals. And I mean, the biology of addiction can be quite treacherous. So I forgive him, right? I don't hold a grudge against him. But all of this being said, you look at your wounds, right? My mom, she's like a workaholic. She's beautiful. She's kind. She's caring. She needed to work so hard to take care of her family because of what my dad wasn't. But that being said, I see both. I see the wounds in my parents and I say, I'm going to take the best parts from both of them. So, in relationship to femininity, who turns you on, for me, I need a lady who has not had some form of a silver spoon life, meaning that she's gone through her own transmutation, her own energetic whirlpool, and she's learned how to feel deeply and see who she is and knows herself, right? And values the internal, the spaciousness, the balance. Also ties the camel. Financially abundant, practically dialed in, kind, caring, affectionate, intelligent. The reason I share this is kind of like you are always sending out energy. The world's a mirror. So the clearer you get on who you are and why you are the way that you are, the more easily understanding others and why you feel pulled toward others, why you find yourself in specific situations, and even decision making itself. It's like decisions don't have to be made anymore because you have such clarity on who you are and what you care about. So, this overall, the scope is probably the simplification of sight, right? Christ talked about taking that speck out of the, and he said that God and I are one, and yet God's greater than I. So God works through you, but the moment you think it's you, that's great, that's not true. God is greater than I, even though God and I are one. So there's the moment that you begin to get cocky, overconfident, arrogant, thinking that you've done everything. But it's really the faith, the trust, the being brought low that makes you extraordinarily powerful and almost untamable. The only thing that can tame you is God. And that's the real relationship. Like if anything were to, I just don't like the phrase of turns you on. For me, it's more of like what I love, what I'm pulled toward. But it's those people. It's those people who are doing the work to have the connection with thyself. So, point number 3, the pattern break. Healing yourself to attract someone whole. Now, it's funny because to do this, you're going to kind of have to be patient. You're going to say, instead of having something shallow and short term now, I will have nothing now so that I can actually create what I need, right? Big difference. Rolling Stones. I don't care about what I want. I care about what I need. And sometimes that's hard, right? You ask God to make you stronger and he brings you low through tribulation, right? The paradoxical nature of consciousness expanding. Not supposed to be easy, but I do love you and I am here with you and here for it. That's why I take the time and energy to focus my output in this manner. Because I know there are people out there who will hear this and be thankful, be beyond grateful that this was sent to them. So amen. Now, the healing yourself, it's not like, oh, I need to heal myself so I get this. It's rather, I see what matters to me and it's obvious, so I'm going to do what I know to be true. You don't heal, you don't do work so you can get something. That's a shallow measurement, like tit for tat. And again, that's necessary in human relationships, right? Some days you give 50, the other person gives 50. Other days they give 30, you do 70. Other days they do 80, you do 20, right? That's the longer term sustainability of a human relationship, of consideration, of compassion, of bigger picture bird's eye perspectives. Um so we just mustn't get lost in this illusion of, oh, I need to heal, and once I find this person, then I'll be okay, and oh, I just wish my life was different right now. Like I've sat in that for I've felt that long enough. And one part of it is you do have to go through that, but from me to you, I'm going to be very honest with you. Like the way that you create yourself into the absolute best version of yourself is step by step. And each step being free of that, oh, I just wish. It's letting go of resistance. It's realizing, all right, I'm in this season right now. Let me juice the lemons. Let me not complain, right? Even when you have a million things that you could complain about, you have things that you could play the victim or blame. And you say, nah, I seen through that energy. I know it doesn't serve me. Somehow, some way, this is for me. Even if you can't logically understand the why, that's where your spirit comes in. That's where synchronicity comes in. That's where deeper, intuitive, universal governance starts, where it's like the animals are showing up as signs, the numbers, the times a day, just numerology and synchronicity. Now, you mustn't get too obsessed with that, right? Be busy enough or have enough work to do where you're balancing stillness, rest, and being kind of unhinged with the ethereal with being grounded, practical, hands on work, bills, taxes, practical output, systemization, list building, organization, and order. Too much of anything and you're fucked. All right. So there has to be this ebb and flow of, man, the unseen is riddling, is moving me, but I'm also gonna work out, eat healthy, wake up on time, go to bed early, treat people with kindness, right? It's this balance of things that cannot come together that creates the beauty in life. That's how you get union, is by really learning the essence and nature of the underlying, the immovable, that which cannot be communicated via words. Learn to read between the lines of the words. All right. We're going to wrap this bad boy up. Um, I am super grateful for you. Thank you so much for listening. Genuinely, if this has spoke to you at all, any moment, it's kind of your duty. I'm not going to put this on you in like a heavy way, but it kind of is at least a little bit your responsibility to say, man, is there anyone in my life, in my direct reality, who I could share this with that may need to hear this? Because I am relying on the energy of the world and the energy of the people who hear these messages for marketing, for reach. I trust that the word of mouth communication is one of the most powerful tools out there. And that's why I meet you genuinely. That's why I don't sugarcoat things for you. And at the same time, I will have gentler, affectionate episodes. I do my best to balance the ebb and flow of speaking in a extraordinarily direct and powerful tone and manner, but also bringing that nuance and femininity and gentleness and grace into this communication, because I know sometimes we need a little bit of both. And if I talk in one way all the time, some people may resonate much more with this when I'm ripping fast, speaking fast, and other people may really need me to take my time in expression. So, genuinely, thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening. I appreciate you. Have a great day. New episodes are out Monday, Thursday, 10 a.m. EDT. Let's go.